Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to post-episode issues. Better Call Saul, Season 1, Episode 6. This is called 5-0. And oh my gosh, this was all Mike all the time. Sorry, I can't get over to the music right now to turn it down. I'm going to get to it in a second. It was all Mike all the time, an emotional story about a Mike backstory. Not much help happened in the present. Saul was barely in the episode. Felt way more like a Breaking Bad episode.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess that's just the universe we live in here, Joe. Oh, my God. But everyone, if this is your first time checking us out, please hit that subscribe button. Also, please share your thoughts of Better Call Saul up until this point, what you thought of this particular episode of Better Call Saul that wasn't Saul-centric. Would you like to see more of these type of episodes on the show with different former Breaking Bad Gus Fring characters as we go on? More Tuco. I mean, like, whatever. Would you like to see more of Tuco's family? Like, this just opens the door up to so much that this show does. In fact, even when the episode started and then they did the Better Call Saul theme song, not that it didn't work, but it was almost like you get that lighthearted Better Call Saul theme song and you're dealing with this like heavy-duty Mike shit right from the beginning. It almost didn't quite match up. But
it matched up perfect in my brain.
It really did, and this was right back to the work of Vince Gilligan and crew, giving you what Breaking Bad gave you and giving you what they're continuing to give you with Better Call Saul. I don't even want to call it a sequel or a prequel anymore. I just want to call it a continuation of Breaking Bad, because that's what it feels like.
Right.
Continuation and exploration of the Breaking Bad universe. Holy shit. So like we said, there's a lot of ways to reach us if you have some comments to jump in. You can email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. You can also tweet me at igotissuesman. Tweet Joe at DirtyLocks. We have a chat room going in the YouTube page, or you can jump in the comment section depending on when you're watching this. So everybody, let's get right to the opening of this episode because I'm still a little emotional from the end of it, and I want to get there, but I have to talk about the end and Jonathan Banks and how getting him on the show and getting him playing Mike and giving you more of Mike, I can tell is so important for the beginning of this series. And I think knowing that you had an episode like this in your pocket when you wrote this first season was a real win and something that I think a lot of people wanted, because in Breaking Bad he was such a fan character. Now, we didn't really get a chance to talk to you that much during the Breaking Bad show. Were you a fan of Mike as a character in Breaking Bad?
Oh yeah, every silent moment he has is a magic moment on screen, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh,
yeah, he does. I absolutely agree with you. Knowing that he was signed on right from the beginning, they teased him a bunch of episodes, silent and give me stickers, not enough stickers, not enough stickers. It was all. I think that they knew they needed to bring someone along, and I think he was a perfect character to bring along.
He really was, and I like how they introduced him, too, as you just alluded to it, with the whole stickers thing and starting out on, like, oh, is he just going to be this guy that's sitting there that he interacts with? I just love how they just brought it in slowly and slowly until this episode was just completely Mike-centric. Amazing. Ren Redwood, hello, and big hello to Katie as well, she says. Whoa, okay, so let's just start out. This whole episode started out exactly the way it felt from beginning to end, like a train on a track moving forward. And Mike's whole perspective, Mike's whole everything is that train moving forward. And we see it rolling into a station, ding, 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 as the visual makes it look like we're in flashback. And because it's also kind of faded, it just seems like it's in a flashback.
And it is a flashback.
It is, but you knew right away. They didn't even have to tell you, right? And it's Vince Gilligan's amazing at show not tell. It's just perfect.
Well, you knew it had to be a flashback just for the reason that at last we saw, he was getting pulled in, or the cops showed up at his house. So it's either a flashback or he's dealt with that and gone back to Philly or something. So
exactly.
Once you see the girl, you know it's a flashback.
There's something up with him. He doesn't seem happy, but I didn't see what ended up being up with him happening right away.
He didn't seem happy, really, Phil? He ever seems happy? He's smiled once.
Yes, he seemed happy at a point in time tonight. A couple of times he pretended to be happy.
I guess so. I guess you're right about that. Once or twice.
And I've seen him happy a couple of times on Breaking Bad. Whenever he's with that little girl, he's happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spot for Mike.
You get to see Mike laugh. Pup was tired, Joe. Pup was very tired.
Mm.
So he sits down and he sighs, and when he goes into the train station, and he looks at another guy cleaning shoes, and he looks at the restroom, and he just kind of casing the place out, and he hears someone say his name, which at first I didn't know if was in his memory or we were flashing over to reality for a second, or back in time for a second. But no, it's the girl that we thought was his daughter last week. We made assessments that it was his daughter. It wasn't the same thing. Daughter-in-law. It's his daughter-in-law, his Maddie's wife. And or his driver. She's there to pick him up, and she says they have a little interaction where she's already a little awkward with him, but she says she'll wait outside. He has to go to the bathroom first. So he enters the woman's bathroom and he yells, "Hey, janitor! Anybody in there?"
Well, he waits outside for a half a second first.
Yeah, and he yells in. I love this. This is just classic. Well, you see someone like Jonathan Banks got cast for Beverly Hills Cop years ago because he also has amazing comic timing. He can do the whole MacGyver thing that he does in this episode a couple times, but he also is just a very funny guy and knows the proper timing of a joke and everything, and just the way he phrases his lines are just so funny. This was one of those moments where he's like, "Anybody in there, janitor?" No. And he puts 25 cents in a machine, and at first I thought he was getting a condom. I was like, "Oh, it's neat."
Yeah, no. That's the pad and tampon dispenser.
Right, I needed to. Katie probably, like Katie just said, any girl would probably know what he was going after. And he gets a maxi pad from the woman's room, and he heads back into the men's room as ominous music comes in for a second, and he pulls down his shirt, and he's got a bullet wound in his shoulder, and he's using a maxi pad for damage to hold in the blood, but he's in a ton of pain. And this whole scene is just atmosphere with the music and with his acting, and it's just he's in huge discomfort, and it's just an excellently acted scene. But Mike is obviously a badass, so it doesn't matter. And then we kick into our theme song. Quick question, and I guess this is more for Katie or any girl watching. I don't know much. I've never actually held a pad. Could that be used for that purpose?
Oh yeah. They're made to absorb blood.
Okay.
Yeah, and for anybody who's wondering why he waited until after she showed why he sat down and waited, he didn't want to miss his ride, and he knows that the longer he waits, the more blood is going to absorb, and the quicker it'll be that it starts showing through up to his shirt too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well his two shirts are going to keep that pad in place. It's going to be moving all over the place.
I guess that's more my question. Is it going to bleed through quickly?
Yeah, I don't see that pad staying in place with his shirt and loose coat.
To
if
go
you put the strap over that shoulder from the bag to keep it there, the weight of the bag, maybe that would open.
Yeah, because it would have put pressure on it too, which a wound needs also.
Right.
So
the only way that stays there and doesn't.
No, he should have gotten a few.
Yeah.
Because he'll need.
He'll need more.
Yeah.
Right, especially they're only 25 cents.
Yeah,
that's not that much.
Go crazy.
Isn't it like? I mean, I guess this is inflation. This is 10 plus years ago, 12 years ago. So I guess inflation right now they'd probably be about $2 in a room. So
I don't even know nowadays.
Yeah. So we get our theme song, which is so lighthearted, as I mentioned, and then we come back in dark memory perspective, looking through the corner of an eye as we see him pushing his granddaughter on a swing, being very happy. Here it is, Joe, as we mentioned, seeing Mike happy. But the way they
that makes you wonder how happy he could actually be, knowing what we find out in the end of this through the end of this episode, carrying around all the guilt that he's actually carrying around. Is he happy right now, or is that like feigned happiness? And sure, he's kind of happy. This is how he should be happy, but he feels he's carrying around a lot of guilt to be happy in that moment.
It's a moment of fleeting joy.
He is, but ultimately, I think all of this ends up being a good thing because he develops. And again, using Breaking Bad as knowing what happens in the end, which is tough to do, but it's there. He ends up having a great relationship with this girl throughout her life until the point of Breaking Bad, which I won't tell you what happens there, for whatever it's worth. But so I think the feeling I get, just to skip ahead to the end for a quick second, the feeling that you get from her at the end of it all was, fuck those guys. Yeah, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. So of course she can live with it. She's fine. She's fine with the fact Mike did this, and she's gonna. In fact, this is going to bring them closer together because he fucking murdered all those fucking sons of bitches, Hoffman and Minsky or whatever his name was. I have it Linsky or Dinsky or Prinsky or what the hell his name was. So he's pushing his granddaughter in the swing. Pup Pup's tired. When he said Pup Pup, I can't help but think of Arrested Development, and I wonder if it was a shout out to Arrested Development.
Yeah, that's curious.
Just because Jonathan Banks is a funny kind of guy, so it could just be, oh, can I call myself Pup Pup? I could see him saying something like that.
I wonder if that's a big thing out west, that
The Pup Pup
Philly
thing.
Or,
Yeah. So this
I haven't really heard it before.
Raymond says this episode was way better than last week's. Yeah, Joe, I haven't really heard Pup Pup that often either. That's why I immediately thought of Arrested Development. Yeah, I tend to agree, Raymond, that this show is on an upward trajectory, and every episode is getting better and better. I can't wait to see next week, now that we've had the Mike development, to bring everything into focus for these last few episodes. These last four episodes. What are we on, episode 6, or we have 3 episodes after this? This is episode 6, so we have 7, 8, 9, and 10. We have 4 episodes left. Holy crap, we're moving at a brisk pace with this goddamn shit. I don't want it to be over. I'm so happy that we know we're getting a second season, so we're going to get some sort of cliffhanger at the end here. It's going to be interesting. And just to go to scenes from next week, Joe is correct, I'm not. The 2 people are coming back with the money. We saw them in that situation. They're definitely...
We're not done with them. And she was even more sinister, more demanding. Now
I agree, Joe.
Towards Saul in that preview.
Yeah, Joe, if your I don't want to get into it because we spent too much time there before, but if your speculation ends up being correct, you are like, I will do the Irish jig, Joe. I will dance the dance. Joe is the best. He's the man of facts, fucking best. If she ends up killing him.
That's the way I see it going. That's how the money seems to be most important to this woman.
Right.
The only way this woman gets...
We'll talk more about them next week. Let's talk more about them next week when we see them. So he says to his daughter, she's good, and how do you like it out west? They kind of shit back and forth about that. Wide space is different. It's okay, just adjusting. And how's Kaylee? And the girl still asks about Maddie and misses her daddy. Mike says, yeah, and says, how long are you here for, she asks, and he says, I'm here for the duration. He says it's better, it's not like back before, as we find out later, it's because he was a drunk for a while. He wants to be there for his family. So this is when we learn everything, that she's his son's widow and everything like that. She wants
the
him.
exact relationship, right?
Right, we learn where they are in the relationship. She says she wants him in her life, but needs to ask about Maddie, needs to know more about how he died, and says it was different. Different how? He was different before he died. His personality changed. He wouldn't eat. He sleep different. He was mean. He was short with me, and he snapped at me. And Mike's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Mike says cops aren't touchy-feely people, and she says that's crap. This is more. Didn't you notice? Didn't you feel it? And Mike says, no, he seemed okay. But you can just tell Mike's lying. Mike's totally bullshitting.
She knows her husband. She knows her father-in-law. She knows that he was talking to him on the phone. All that shit.
Right. You got the same feel for her, that you think she calls Mike, knows Mike is bullshitting her the entire fucking time, right?
She's not dumb.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I tend to agree.
She knows he is.
She's definitely not dumb.
So she didn't know what to think. She didn't know what to think. 3 days before he died, at like 2:30 in the morning, she got a phone call because she's not cutting through. She cuts through the bullshit. He was talking downstairs. She woke up. He wasn't in bed. He was downstairs and he was getting intense. He'd be screaming if he wasn't whispering. He was mean. He was angry. He was really angry. And Mike asks, what else was he saying? And I don't know. I couldn't make it out. I couldn't hear it. She called him out, and he would not talk to her. She kind of like got into his face about it, but he wouldn't talk to her. But she thinks, as she's playing him to try to get him to admit it, I think he was talking to you. And he goes, me? She goes, who else? He goes, I thought for one hot second, which I thought was cool, kind of cool that they gave her some time-specific dialogue by saying, for one hot second, I thought he might be cheating. But you two are thick as thieves, and
he was not out fucking catting around.
Right, he's not that kind of person, and it's just like if Stephanie came downstairs and it was 2:30 in the morning and I'm on the phone with you, Joe, she's not going to be like, oh, or she's going to think I'm on the phone with you or I'm on the phone with one of my other friends or something like that. She's not going to automatically think, you can tell in that kind of situation. People that are that close, that talk all the time, can talk at 2:30 in the morning. Because of Mike's next response might seem weird, but you get the feeling like, yeah, they are in that kind of position where you have best friends that you talk at 3 or 4 in the morning. And Mike says, I don't think it was. I can't recall. Any late night heart-to-hearts in that period of time. Maybe it was a case or something. Mike says, listen.
Yeah, he can't recall, and like he answers the cop later, it was this bar or that bar, but probably this bar. Yeah, he knows. I don't care how drunk he gets. He knows.
He knows. He's calling her out on her shit. He totally knows. And Justin, welcome to the room. Welcome to the channel. What season do we think that we'll see Gus? I tend to think that Gus will be introduced towards the end of next season. I think we have enough places that we're not going to get. I doubt we're going to get the teaser at the end of this season to something to do with Gus. I think some more time needs to pass. And so I tend to think maybe towards the end of next season, season 2 into season 3. Because I have a feeling we probably will get a season 3, unless season 2 is just. But from this team, I seriously doubt that. So I would say towards the end of next season.
Right.
Would you think they would introduce Gus this early?
No.
No, I definitely don't think so. I think
there's no need to. There's enough going on this season. They already introduced Taco and Miho and
Tuco.
They introduced Mike. Yeah, isn't Taco one of the guys?
No, Tuco and Nacho. I see where you're
Nacho
and confused.
Oh, and right, Nacho. Nacho, Taco, Flaco, Paco.
Yes, one of the enemy guys. Yeah, and I'd like to see them explore Tuco a little bit more before we go into Gus. There's a lot of stuff they could do with Tuco.
Yeah.
So Mike's playing. He says, listen, I know what you're doing. You're replaying it over and over again, seeing if you could change something. I think the same thoughts. I think every day I beat myself up over this. Maddie's gone, and that's all there is. There's nothing you can do about it. And she says, or I would say almost accuses him, I guess that's that, Mike. And I got to put Callie to bed. And why don't you leave? Yeah. Mike, why don't you get the fuck out, motherfucker? See the door? Get out. And Mike says if she needs his help, he wants to, just let him know. And she says, see you around, but I wrote, definitely feeling the bullshit. Definitely feeling the bullshit.
Oh, for real. He's definitely trying to guide her thinking.
Yes. Good way of saying it. Very good way of saying it.
Like, he's not necessarily answering and not necessarily not answering, but he's definitely trying to guide her thinking, guide her back to away from whatever she's thinking about.
Right. And you can just, and if they didn't hammer in the point enough by her completely giving him bullshit eyes through the whole scene, they hammer it in with the way she watches him through the back of the window of his while he's waiting for her cab. You see her eyes just putting darts through the back of his head. Right. As he's sneering at him almost through the window. As he gets in the cab, still bleeding, and he says to the taxi driver, whose name is Francisco, he goes, hey, Francisco, you know this town? And the guy's like, yeah, I know the town.
How well.
Yep, and they go, and he takes them off to a vet shelter where we get puppies! We get puppies!
Yeah, I love the look that the taxi cab driver gave him.
Yeah.
Just when he glanced up in the mirror, like, oh, that's what this is.
Okay.
What illegal shit you want to get done?
Right, and it just
you want drugs, you want girls, you want a doctor? And he had a doctor for him. Wow.
And again, I think these are the kind of moments where we're leading into tempting our way into more Tuco and more Gus stuff, showing you the world of the Breaking Bad universe, showing you the underbody. It's similar to when Nacho was talking to Saul and said, when you're in the game, give me a call. And this is a similar scene that we have with Mike. Mike's like, I'm not quite there yet, but if you want to be there, you can be in the game anytime you want. You see, this is the start of seeing how Mike gets involved with shit. So we're off to the vet shelter, and the vet is complimenting Mike for his work, asking the story of how he got shot, and he says, just And he gives him the whole stuff about keep it clean, keep it dry, go to Walgreens a few miles over and get a sling. Oh, you don't have a sling? Well, I got a cone. It's the same thing. You want a cone?
Yeah. What do you mean you don't have a sling for a human in this veterinary's doctor's office? Veterinary.
Well, with what we find out about the vet in a few minutes, you kind of wonder why he does it. Because he's probably the kind of vet that is working on mafia types or the underworld drug lord.
Yeah, in his trunk he should have some of this shit, even if it's not in his office. Why wouldn't it be in his trunk?
Renwood says, I think she knew Mike was lying. She wanted him to come clean about the phone call. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those situations where sometimes when you know someone's lying about something, you can just smell bullshit. Where's the shit, Robin? Where's the shit, Robin? Tell me where the shit is.
Sometimes you have to listen to the person who's telling you to just fucking shut up and leave it alone.
Very true. Very true, but it's tough
But
to.
that's her husband, baby daddy.
Yeah,
know,
exactly. And
very tough to take just the word for it after such a weird phone call. But
I mean,
I find it hard to believe that at any point after I know she was like, yeah, you were drunk, whatever, I couldn't talk to you, but still, like, she didn't force the issue, like, keep coming at him, like, what the fuck was that? Was that you on the phone? What's he into? What's he into? Why is he dead?
yeah.
Like, wait till he gets to Arizona?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what kind of it seems like they had a good enough relationship that she could have done that at some point in time. But the explanation is right after he died that he was a drunk and she couldn't, because she does that. He does kind of ask, why didn't you come to me and ask me these questions? She says, you were a mess. I couldn't ask you shit.
Yeah, they're both trying to protect each other. They're lying to each other.
Yeah, they are. They're both, as Katie said, they're both trying to protect each other because they're lying to each other.
All right, I'll give you guys that.
And
I give that to him.
So he gives him a cone. No, he doesn't give him a cone. He doesn't give him the cone. The vet does charge him $500 though, and he gives him pet Vicodin. And he says $25 for each pill, or $15 for something less human. Ren says, "Isn't it rough and rough? Isn't it a bit rough and through that the vet needed to dig out the bullet?" Yeah, thorough. It's very thorough the way he dug out that bullet. Oh, gross. Oh, good job. At least he had a scalpel to do it. It's good. And Mike looks at him and says, "I'm an aspirin man," so the doctor gives him a couple for free. And then he says, if you're new in town and if you're in the game, he knows the people he could work with to get him work. Mike said, "I'm not into that kind of work." And I feel like the doc should have just, if it was a different kind of show, he would have turned to the camera and said, "Well, not yet. That I'm done."
Yeah, I'm not done here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that doctor, and I bet you we'll be seeing him again.
Yeah, that's a valuable thing.
Like, Saul's going to have to come to him at some point and say, what do I do? I got a feeling we're going to see that doctor again.
Yes.
Absolutely, because that's the kind of guy you want to keep on, as you guys were saying, on your payroll there. You need to stick a guy, have a guy like that around, especially if you're a guy like Mike who's always getting into scrapes.
Well, those are the kind of questionable morals that this show and its predecessor have always liked to dance around. That's the type of character that they like to work with. Okay, this guy's a doctor and he saves puppies, so he sews up gangsters and people who have been shot and people who might have done something wrong. Does that make this doctor a bad guy? Have a couple of pills. Does that make him a bad guy? Have him at $25 a pop. That makes him a bad guy.
But at least he gave him a couple for free, or give him the 15 for something less human. That was the bad guy line. If you want something for 15 for something a little less human.
Yeah.
And if you want me, and if you fall into some acid, this is the kind of guy you go to that makes you into the Joker. This is the guy that's working on you and giving you the.
Yeah. And it was pretty cheap, $500 to And Ren puts a good point up. If it wasn't a through and through, I don't think it was a through and through. He made no attempt at trying to stop any kind of bleeding on the back of him.
No.
Didn't show any kind of blood stains on the shirt that he was worried about or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and say that the vet did dig it out and stitched him up, which was already stitched because he said, "Did you stitch this yourself?"
Yeah, and he was
at
complimenting
first
him
to start. Like he put his own little stitches in probably for the fucking train ride and.
Oh God, what do you think he used? Did he use like a stapler or something? Something ridiculous, probably. Or
Well, he
guitar.
said stitches. He didn't say, "Did you staple this yourself?"
That's
So
true. He probably just sewed it up
we're
with
gonna
a
say he used
Floss.
yarn
yarn. I was gonna think a
or
guitar string,
shoelace.
maybe.
Tied it
Oh
up with
my
a shoelace string.
goodness. I was
Like this'll work.
So we go to the current time with the investigator
A
probing.
huge embroidery needle.
The investigator is probing, and all Mike will say, he keeps saying, "Come on, Mike, just talk to us. Come on, come on. We've expected more from you. Come on, you're on our side, Mike." And all Mike will keep saying is, "Lawyer, lawyer." Mike's showing you how it's done here. Mike is showing.
And so, yeah, I'm only here so I don't get fined. Go, Marshawn. And that came from Katie. That came from Katie, a little Marshawn Lynch fucking.
Mike was going beast mode here. He really was.
Yeah, he was. And I'm thinking, as soon as the cop says, you're not under arrest, so why you don't need a lawyer? I thought, why doesn't he get up and walk out? If I'm not under arrest and I don't need a lawyer and I'm not answering any of your questions, then have a good afternoon. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
If I am under arrest and they're detaining me, lawyer. And so,
lawyer.
under arrest, he keeps asking for a lawyer, and I couldn't figure out why he wasn't leaving.
Because he wants. Right.
Because he obviously wanted something.
Right. Joe, that's one of those examples of when you know you're dealing with a better show than the average affair. Because some shows might just make it that he's asking for a lawyer to put Saul and Mike together. And at first, for a second, I'm like, oh, okay, that's just what they're doing. But then you realize it's part of a bigger plan.
Right, he needs a sketchy lawyer. He doesn't need just a lawyer. He needs someone who might have a little bit of questionable values, we'll call them.
And who owes him a favor.
Right.
And who owes him a favor. Ren, good point. Maybe Mike already dug it out. What a guy. Yep. Oh. Do you know what I thought was kind of funny in this episode? We had Saul showing up looking like Matlock, and I
agree. He definitely dug it out himself at some point. Yeah. On the train, in the train bathroom, he dug that shit out. He had 8 hours to be poking into his shoulder.
We have two 80s action stars because Mike is like MacGyver with all his little tools, his little rope for unlocking cars and using Maxi pads to protect his wounds and stuff. And then you have Matlock here, which I thought this was the funniest moment of the evening when he keeps saying lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. The investigator expects more cooperation, and all he keeps saying is lawyer. He goes, fine, what lawyer? And he slides him the card that says need a will, call McKill. And then we cut in, and I wrote my notes here were dude, Matlock is in the house.
He was, man. He was.
As Saul walks in, high as the hog, coming in, going, Airman Trout, where's Airman Trout? Where's my fucking
You look like frickin' Matlock. They say it right to him.
Yeah, because it's an awkward moment. He comes over to the cops, and they're all like pausing, staring at him. He goes, what? What are you guys all looking at? And they just go, and I can't believe they said it. That's again, I love the fucking humor of the show. They just turn over, they go, well, you look like Matlock. And he goes, I look like young Paul Newman dressed like Matlock.
Awesome. It's awesome that he actually got the suit. He wasn't just fucking around the previous episode.
He was serious.
He was serious about it. Single-breasted, one pocket, 2 buttons. Yep, that's the shit I want. And he was very meticulous about that other suit, too. This is a guy who pays attention to detail. And con work, that's what it's all about, too. You know?
He wasn't renting the Matlock suit. He's wearing that thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He had that shit designed and made at that same tailor that he went to last time.
Yeah, it is Matlock approved.
Yeah, it can't just be like a cheap-ass, off-the-rack Matlock. It's got to be an expensive Matlock suit.
And
shoes.
And shoes.
And shoes. And it's worth mentioning that the way Saul came, and I'm totally calling him Saul completely. I haven't called him Jimmy once in this episode. When Saul comes in there, he comes in there. It's very similar to the way he came in when he came into the police station for Nacho. Just come in. Where's my client? He has that very fire and brimstone way of walking into a room. Like, hey, watch out! Hey, get me in there. And then he goes in the room and the cops trying to fuck with him on his level goes, here's your guy Barney Fife. And Saul just goes, wrong show. Come on, don't try to bring that shit to me. He was just, don't bring that weak talk.
Yeah. If you're gonna come with an insult, at least get the shit right, my man. At least get it right.
Come on, wrong show. And he said he gets his dig in on Mike. What did the mayor not give you enough stickers? Which we all heard in the trailer, but was still funny. And he goes, "I brought you your coffee." And they kind of get into
That's
it.
not for me. That coffee's for you.
The coffee's for you. And Mike, he goes, "What, for me?" Well, and he goes, hope. What's he say? I hope Juan Valdez will. No, he says that later. I hope Juan Valdez will bail you out. Yeah. No, he goes, "Your coffee. What, for me?" And then Saul goes, "Who think whatever? What are you talking about, coffee for me?" He goes, "Listen, this is what's gonna happen, genius." Says the cops are from Philly. They've come a long way to talk to me and to have a little chat. And they're gonna come in here and have a big chat with me. And the young one, when he's done, you're gonna take that coffee and you're gonna spill the coffee on the young one's jacket.
Once he puts the little notebook back in his pocket.
Yep. Once you put the notebook back in his pocket.
Yep.
And Saul goes, "Wait, is that the only reason why I'm here? I'm here because you want me to."
So you can rob him of that little notebook that he.
Well, at first he has a funny line. He goes, "It's because you want me to assault an officer," which Mike says, "I don't know, lukewarm water. I don't know if you define that as assault."
Right. But if you do, counselor, all right, you know.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to aid and abet your investigation? And Mike says, "Listen, buddy, you owe me one." And he goes, and so I was like, "No, I'm going to be a good lawyer and make sure they dot their T's, cross their I's." And did I just say that? I did it. Strike that, reverse it. Dot their I's, cross their T's. And this Juan Valdez bump and dump is not going to happen. I love that line. As he goes to the door and he says, "We're prepared to indulge you." So then we cut back in and we get the close up of the doctor and of the coffee, and they ask if it's okay if the local cop sits in. Saul says that's fine, and they start talking about these two guys who become a big part of the rest of the episode. But we can call them Douchebag 1 and Douchebag 2, but their names are Hoffman and Fensky. They're their two names. So Saul is like, "Listen, pretend I don't know anything about this Hoffman and Fensky thing."
I liked what he started doing. He just got caught up in it and like let his jaw drop. He should have continued with the questioning, continued to interrupt the cop for more details about each person every second of the way, made these two fuckers explain everything down to the detail and got every little piece of information he could out of them whatsoever.
I could not
to the point where he wouldn't have had to steal the notebook in the first place, which is what I thought he was going to do.
Right. It's a great point, Joe. And Ren Renwood says Mike needed Slip and Jimmy. He absolutely did. And what I really think they were really doing, which I think is a brilliant way of mixing it in there without making it too obvious, they were just giving us the audience exposition. It was a good way of making us be in Saul's position in that moment and not knowing anything and just getting the highlight reel of what was going on in that moment. It was the show's way of integrating it without it being too obvious.
But that's what would have been awesome, because the line he gives me is like, "I'm not going to spill the coffee, and you're going to be happy you have me as your lawyer. Now let's get to this." And he calls the cops in. That's what would have made it like even more of like a beautiful moment in his career, like that he was able to like outwit even the two smarter cops from Philly, not just the two schmoes that he had to deal with in the other episode.
Now listen, just because Mike seems like a charming, outgoing guy with dancing, bubbly eyes, and then he starts using big words that I couldn't even write out. But he's kind of tactician, or I don't even know what word he used there. He meant quiet, not talking.
Did he pull it from a Matlock episode?
Yeah, he did. He was using like Matlock words there. Big words, bubbling personality slips in Massachusetts, Pasha.
Something heard his older brother say.
Yeah, something exactly. He was using Chuck words. Every day, Chuck put a word of the day on the board that. So he doesn't work. So then they say that Mike's son Matty Mike was a Philadelphia cop for 30 years, and so was his son Matt. Was a good cop with the police department, and the other cop said, yeah, he was a good cop. He tells a story about on his second year when he was still basically a rookie. He had him and two other cops that were his backups were ambushed in a crack house. The shooter got a clean shot on Matt, but he got away. And you could see Saul really being moved by the story, and looking at Mike, and Jimmy is a good guy that is moved.
And as they're explaining it, he's looking at Mike because he knows Mike fucking did it.
Right, he's thinking Mike killed his son.
Everybody in the room knows Mike fucking killed those two guys.
No. I think initially he's giving him the "Did you kill your son?" look.
No, well, I think what was probably going through his head is, did your son die saving you because you were the dirty cop in the room and like he took the bullet for you?
Right. Again,
and then you went out and killed those other two at a later date? I think that's what he was thinking, which is what I was thinking.
It's just whatever he was thinking exactly. It's like the where's the bullshit thing.
Yeah.
Where's the shit? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? And another point I just wanted to make.
Scenarios, but by the end of it, he knows that it was Mike who definitely killed those two cops, and he's just trying to figure out, why in his head.
Why? Exactly. So then he tells him a story about a year ago, and Saul looks moved. The cops say they did their best looking into every lead, but got nothing but dead ends. The cops say that the two cops that were backing him up ended up dead a few months later, Hoffman and Fensky, and that they found out that they were mixed up in some bad shit. And they just thought there was some right before the investigation happened, and they thought there was some hinky shit going on. So Saul says, "Oh, that's and good, but I got to do my best lawyer thing. So what the fuck does this have to do with my client?"
Yep.
And they say it was a Hail Mary. We just figured we'd come out here and talk to you, Mike, and see if you knew what Fensky and Hoffman were up to. Anything?
Did you know? Why didn't say anything when you found out? So I found out when I was on my way here.
Yeah, Mike gives a great rehearsed answer. Mike says he didn't know much. He found out when he was in Kansas City, and he thinks they were with Matt. They were Matt's guys. He sometimes saw them at the bar. He thinks he saw them at this bar, maybe McLaren's, but maybe not. Maybe it was another cop's bar. They go, was he drinking with anyone? I don't know. It was at a bar.
Yeah. I don't remember the details. The details are fuzzy. What the hell?
You remember I was a drunk back then. Yep. And they asked him, how's he feel? He feels like he clawed out of a
dried up bag of shit. Yeah.
Clawed out of a bottle of years, and he wasn't feeling like a Mighty Mouse coming out of the bottle. He was feeling really awful. Big Kev, welcome. What's up, guys? I got here late. Time to burn something. I don't know what you're burning, and listen to you guys. Enjoy, my friend. Eat a sandwich for us. Eat a sandwich. And Mike says that yes, that he doesn't know. He was a drunk face. He feels like he clawed out of a bottle.
Right.
And they ask him, why did he leave for Albuquerque the next day, the day after these two died then, and didn't come back for the funeral? They were your son's guys. They knew you. You knew these guys. And they press him, and he goes, I'm sorry, I don't have any more info for you guys. Sorry, and he shakes their hand and starts to say their goodbyes. And you know what he did? Saul did it.
Yep. And it was poorly done.
But did he?
Like he was looking for going in for the. It was like, if that's how Slimmy Jimmy operated, he didn't make a lot of money at all. He got beat up more than he fucking walked out with money, because that was fucking very purposeful.
In fairness, I was taking notes while I was doing it, so I didn't see. I thought he just spilled it on the notes. I didn't see him steal it.
No, he didn't. Jimmy didn't steal it. Jimmy spilt the coffee, and Mike stepped up, and you could see Mike's left hand go across for it. Well, like he pushed him up against the wall with his left hand, then came at him with his right hand to wipe the coffee where he had just also pushed him. And as he came in, he took it with his left hand and wiped 2 more times. So he was able to do it real quick. I would fucking end up pinching the guy's nipple slapping him with a notebook on my way out or something. But like, you could definitely see the handwork go on. I like the way it was filmed. Because,
I would have to.
It really did show it. You could see it.
I would have to rewatch it. There's another show that we watch with something that happened this past season. If you rewatch, you can watch how something happened when someone slips something and someone turns purple. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm going to have to rewatch this Saul scene. I was talking about Game of Thrones, Joe. Yeah, there's a moment in the season where
I watched that a million times, and I can't see anything that. Oh, you can see the moment, or you can hear a little whatever. I watched it a bunch of times. I didn't
talk about that at a different time. I'm sorry. So they say he didn't come back from the funeral. He didn't talk to him. I have a video I have to show you, and we'll talk about that later. They shake his hand, and they say he's staying out there for a few until they find some stuff. Oh, and then they did the coffee. They leave. They get into the car. Mike has the notes, and he's looking through them at Saul.
He's like, oh, you couldn't wait. You pulled that out right in front of me. You couldn't wait until I drop you off, because now I'm a fucking accomplice. What the fuck? Before I just spilled something on you. Now I know you took it. What are you doing? They think you killed someone. Now you're stealing from them.
This is, for whatever it's worth, before you were saying about slipping Jimmy, I think we're supposed to know that Jimmy knows it wasn't good, because he refers to it as a third-rate Marx Brothers routine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, you really wanted me to be proud of that third-rate Marx Brothers routine." Mike says, "You really want to know? You really want to know the truth about all this situation?"
Nope.
I don't want to hear. Joe, I don't want to hear about Theon Greyjoy. No, don't say anything about Theon Greyjoy. No. So Mike says anything else, and he says, "How did you know? How did you know? The one thing I want to know. How did you know I'd spill the coffee?" And again, this is our second moment, Joe, where I think Mike is legitimately happy here for a second. He just starts laughing at him. He legitimately laughs at him, like gives him the same thing the same exact feeling and the same vibe that Nacho gave him. Dude, you're in the game, you just don't know it. You've been playing this game the whole you're trying to be a good lawyer.
Right, there's no such thing. There's a reason why you even made that joke to the old lady in the last episode. You're either all crooks, or half of you are crooks and half of you are what? Idiots. And sorry, Slippin' Jimmy, you're not an idiot.
No, Slippin' Jimmy is no idiot. No one in that family. He can't be. Being raised by Chuck, you can't be an idiot.
Right.
Chuck wouldn't let him be an idiot. So yes, he goes, okay, strong silent type. Good for you, but your friends in Philadelphia over there think you killed those two cops. Just so you know. And Mike says, "Yep."
Oh, shit.
Yep. No shit.
And that's after flipping through the book, so we can see that there's definite, like, they pulled luds, they know a bunch of shit that they. And he can see in the notes that they definitely are pointing their fingers at him.
Okay, so here we go to the point. Absolutely, Joe, and we get into that a little bit more here. But this is the point in the episode where initially I kind of thought when we went to commercial break, we came back, I almost thought for a second that we were going to go back to Saul. But no, they're like, no, this is a complete Mike episode. We're not even going to see Saul for the rest of the episode. That's your Saul, bye.
That was Saul. Yep, I liked that. I liked that a lot.
I fucking love that, Joe. Loved it.
And because now you know that Mike is no longer just a peripheral character, he is one of the main characters for the season, and here is the start of his story.
He's the second most important character, and they've just told you that, because he's the only other person besides Saul. Last week was very Chuck heavy, but it was still Saul was in almost every scene. I mean, I would say Chuck would be number 3 on that list, but Mike just catapulted to the second lead, and especially
at this point, absolutely, Chuck is 3.
Chuck is 3, and that's just because we didn't say enough of it. And I'm not going to talk about it because it's not the right episode to, because he wasn't in it. But even not in this episode, Michael McKean's amazing this season. He's so fucking awesome. So that's it about that. So we're back with Mike, and he's looking and flipping over his notes, seeing the Finsky and Hoffman notes, seeing all the details that they have on him, all the evidence, and he's seeing how much they basically have. And he's pretty horrified with how obvious the details are. And he calls someone, he says, or horrified by what he just found. And he says, "We need to talk. Now it's me." And we drive over, and it's with that girl, and he goes over to her house. And he's like, "Why the fuck?" And he's real angry. "Why the fuck did you call the cops?"
Yeah. Did you tell him Mike was dirty?
Yeah. Did you? Or Maddie was dirty.
Maddie.
Did you tell them that Maddie was dirty? And she's like, "I heard about Hoffman and Finsky." And this is where I want to get into something we were talking about before, where you were saying, just leave it alone, or someone should tell her to just leave it alone. And you were saying it's hard when it's the wife. It's even hard when it's not the wife, and it's a murder that can't be completely explained. That's why there's people that watch 10 hours a day of JFK assassination documentaries, because they need to know who killed JFK. They're obsessed with it. And if it's just someone you know and someone you care about, someone like Maddie that we find out in a second was such a good guy, a Captain America type guy, of course it's going to drive her crazy every day. She needs to know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And it's human nature alone. Forget if it's someone that cared about you. Something happened to you if you died of mysterious causes, Joe. I'd never sleep until I found out what happened to you. I mean, I'd sleep. I'd probably sleep.
There's not many mysterious causes that could kill me.
I would sleep.
It would have to be like disappeared. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you like disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, that would really fuck with my mind.
listen, if I'm saying it right now, if I disappear,
That good.
she watches ID
Okay,
channel
okay, we'll leave
all
that.
day long.
That's a visual gag right there. Good question, Ren. Refresh my memory. Is Mike more of a Saul man or a Gus man? That's a good damn question. From what I can remember, Mike came through Saul initially, but eventually you just see that he's working with Gus. That's what leads me to believe that they all three of these people meet each other together at some point, because that they all have some sort of knowledge for each other. I think Mike is more of a Saul guy, if I remember, and that he ends up working with Gus later on. But I could be wrong about that. It's been a while since I watched Breaking Bad, and I haven't done a legitimate rewatch of it since my first time watching through it. So it's all kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
So he goes on to ask, and she's just smelling the shit. She says, "I want to find the killer. What if it's the same person that got them?"
Okay, I gotta say this.
She found the cash, $5,000. But yes, Joe, what?
I'm gonna say Mike is Gus's man, and Saul is Mike's man.
Okay, interesting. So you think it's
Saul's a lawyer. He works for people.
so Mike ends up getting hooked up with Gus, is what your speculation, and then then Mike brings in Saul to Gus after the fact, because Saul is who introduces Walt and Gus. That's through Saul. I'm pretty positive about that. So let's go on. Let's talk about Breaking Bad at a different time. So he goes on. I mean, I know that for a fact that
Amy's cousin saw Ferris down at 56 Flavors. Amy's cousin's dentist, sister's brother's boyfriend said she saw Ferris down at 46 Flavors last night.
Well, it's a little less complicated than that. It's just that Saul introduces Gus and Walt. So he goes, "You want to make some real money? This is a guy you talk to," and he's the one that does the introduction. He goes on and asks. She wants to find out what happens, and
there it is. Gus needs people, lawyers, for the low men at times that aren't really connected with Gus either. So refer them to Saul.
And that's going to be, we're just talking about in the speculation. That's the fun stuff that I really do hope that they explore, and that we see if this show lasts a while and leads us to Breaking Bad, and then after Breaking Bad to Cinnabon Sam, whatever the Cinnabon Saul guy. So she says she found $5-6 grand. Where'd he get it? Mike says, "Why don't you come to me? That's the father of your child. You accused him of being dirty. He's not dirty. He's not dirty." And she says, "I didn't want you to think he got murdered and then was a bad guy too." She knew how hard this was all on him. You were drunk, and I wanted to know who killed him, because I want them in jail and then dead and thrown into the trash. I don't care. I don't fucking care. And what would it matter if I still loved him if he was dirty? I would still love him no matter what. And Mike goes, "She was not dirty." And she says, "Don't bullshit me. Just be straight with me." And he says it was beneath him, and it was his son, and he was not dirty. And this is where he gets angry. And she goes, "But what was the phone call about? I think you were on the phone with me." And he goes, "When I was on the phone, I was on the phone with him. It was between a father and a son." And she goes, "Oh, you admit you were on the phone with him then?"
Yeah.
And
so
she kind of calls.
She doesn't say that. She says, "So you admit it was you."
You admit it was you.
And
exactly.
It almost sounds more like she's saying that I don't know, that you're the dirty one or something like that.
Right. To go to what we were saying before, I think if anyone believes Mike killed him too, she's just wondering. She's suspecting that Mike killed all three of them, and he was the dirty one. I think is in her vision.
Yeah.
And then he says, "God damn it, get it through your goddamn head, my son was not dirty." He screams at her, and he walks out, and she follows him out. And this is where Breaking Bad. This is where Better Call Saul does a really interesting device where they make it seem like it's continuous, but it's actually a flashback. And I really dug the way they did this, because you realize it pretty soon, but the way they integrated it, it made it seem like it was all one motion. The way they went into it, I liked it, because she follows him out, and then we go right to him walking in the streets. Essentially, what happens is she went out and she brings him right back in. Is what happened, and he starts telling her this story. But what they do in the show is they show you what he was telling her, and you see him walking the streets, going into the back alley, seeing a police car, and he goes into what I called Mike MacGyver mode, and he breaks into the police car using a rope, and we see him. Then all of a sudden, getting drunk and losing control in like a drunk losing control view.
Yeah, well, he goes into the bar. The police car in the alley was parked behind a bar.
Right, behind the bar.
Probably the cop hangout bar. And he goes in and he takes a seat at the bar and he's having drinks and he makes eye contact with these two policemen.
Right, but I want to make it clear that it does make it a point to show you that when he's sneaking into the police car, he's not that drunk or moving.
He's not drunk yet at all.
And then they flash to him like he's shit-faced. And
I thought what he was doing is he was sneaking like that book back into the car.
Right.
I didn't realize exactly what he was doing at first. So.
Right. And I took it for face value too, because the camera played a trick on you to make it seem like he was drunk, losing control, not just sipping a drink, pretending to be drunk. It never made you question.
That's exactly what he was. He was pretending to.
What I'm saying is, they never made you question that the way the camera led into the drunk moment. It made
not until he's leaving the bar. I knew he wasn't drunk when he was saying bye to the bartender. There was no slurring. He says, I'm fine. Besides, I sold my car, and I'm walking home, and
that was the moment you knew something.
I'll keep an eye out for the tarantulas. Don't worry about it. Like, he's not drunk at all. But as soon as he gets outside, that's when he starts stumbling and he can't walk anymore. And it was like, oh, okay, he's definitely putting on a show for someone. Someone's watching. He went and made that threat to the two cops in between this.
Absolutely.
He gets up, he stumbles over to the cops before the bar closes, right? And he puts his arm around both of them, pulls them nice and close. He's like, I know it was you, guy.
It was you, Fredo. I know it was you, Fredo. Yeah, you're the one.
And then he lets go, and he walks back over, and he sits down at the bar and pretends to keep drinking, and he keeps getting, like, probably they watched him slunch further and further over into a drink all night long to think, maybe every now and then he says something loud at the bartender, just give me another one, you scumbag, or whatever.
What do you think he was doing with it? Do you think he was just sipping Sprite or something? He was giving him not real drinks, pouring it out, faking it.
Who knows? I mean, he can't be pouring it on the floor, but maybe he was drinking, but he was just drinking slowly.
Right, or he's just been an alcoholic for so long, a few drinks aren't going to hurt, and he's acted like he was already drunk when he walked into the bar.
That's more what I'm thinking.
So to the bartender, Joe said this already, closing time, I'll drive you home, and he says no. And then we see him limping down the street as we hear eerie music as a car approaches him, and it's Hoffman and Fenty asking him if he wants a ride, and Mike says, I'm walking over here. And they pull him over as they get him in. They say, get him in the car. Come on, take a ride.
They make him repeat his threat too.
They frisk him. They put him in the back, and they say, listen, what were you saying about your threat? And
as soon as they took the gun out of his hip, I was like, oh, okay, he wasn't hiding the notebook in the back seat or in the cruiser at all, which I thought was weird that the two Philly guys would even have a cruiser to begin with. But then I was like, he was putting a gun back there because he knew these guys were going to do this. He was putting on this show the whole time.
Oh no, Ren Renwood knows what we did last summer. Ah! So he passes out and or pretends to pass out as right after he ends up saying they killed that he passed out, yells and talks shit about them. He says, I know you guys did it. I know you killed Matt. You set it up. You were scared. You set him up in the crack house, staged it, making it look like it was a junkie with a gun. But I know it was you. I know it was you, and I'm going to prove it. He says to them, and then they look for an abandoned parking lot or an abandoned lot, and they go and they get him out of the car, and yeah, they set him up. They're gonna kill him and set it up and make it look like he killed himself because he's drunk and he's been.
Yeah, it's kind of fool. They didn't have this planned out. Like they get him out of the car. They put him up against a pole, and then the two walk away. They get their backs turned, and one cop goes, "What are we gonna do now?" Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Right? What the fuck? And then they turn like. Hello, guys, back here with a gun pointed at you. It's so very fucking it was silly funny is what it was. And it's like, what do you mean, what are we going to do? We're gonna fucking kill him like we killed his son, you fucking idiot.
Yeah,
They should have already killed him. They should have already shot him in the head. Here, stand here. Boom, done.
why do they have to? It makes you think even more, as you said. It just points these guys out to be the biggest dumbass scumbag guys that are convincing themselves that every bad thing that they're doing, they have to convince themselves they're doing something good.
Right.
That because they say it, that tragic. Anyone can see it coming. We're really just doing him a favor. But of course, Mike is not drunk or not that drunk. He says, "Smart, good plan. That's basically what I would have done if I was you," which I doubt it. Mike would have done something a lot smarter. And he has the gun on them, and he points the gun, and he shoots them. And
No, Mike wouldn't have done something a lot smarter because essentially it's exactly what he did too.
well, he's smart enough to drain their guns of weapons, of
And
bullets.
somehow he got the clip out of the other guy's gun too.
Are we to imagine that that's what he was doing in the cop car?
That was one of the two things he was doing. He was putting his own weapon in there and taking out the clip from their extra, like, planted on someone weapon that he had stashed in the car, apparently.
And
But the weight of a fully loaded weapon is far different than an unloaded weapon.
Wasn't it the gun that they took off of him when they were putting him in the car?
Oh, was it his own gun? Right.
Shoot himself with his own gun.
Right,
Yeah.
right. His own gun.
And he gets them. He ends up getting the crawl on them.
Katie.
He mics them. He bitches them. He shoots them in the face. The guy trying to crawl away, but Mike gets him and shoots him. Bam! And he looks at the body, and then he casually walks away as it fades to the voiceover back now with the girl talking about, this. And this was the monologue that got me. Like, I lost it during this.
Yeah, he started to choke up a few times, got me to choke up a few times. He's a good actor.
Really good. I'll tell you the line that got me towards the end. He goes, "You let some slide, you look the other way, you bust drug dealers, you find a drug dealer that has more cash than you'll make in a lifetime, and some of it doesn't make into evidence. So what? I mean, we've probably seen Lethal Weapon too. We know the money situation when they bust cops. When the cops bust them, that's how you knew they were safe. Everyone else, it's like killing Caesar. Everyone was guilty, but Matt wasn't dirty. I was. You turn everywhere. Everyone will screw yourself. Everyone will do anything to get along, and I did everything to get along." She says, "Matt didn't." No, Matt didn't. Finsky and Hoffman tried to give him kickbacks. Hoffman went to Matty because they were partners, and they were in on a scam. Matty did what you think he would do. He antagonized him, and then he came to visit me. He wanted to go to internal affairs, and she said, "What? You let him go to internal affairs, and that's what killed him? Because you let him go against these cops?" Because you get a feeling like she would have been completely okay with having her husband on the take as long as he didn't die.
That's not what I did. I convinced him to not go to the cops, to take the money. I made him debase himself.
Yes, I made him debase himself. Because if you look like a rat, you got wife and kids, and he took the loot, do something good with it, I said to him. And he tried, but he wouldn't listen to me. And he's crying like a boy, and he was stubborn. And I told him that I took the money, and I broke his heart that night. He had me on a pedestal, and that was the night you heard him on the phone. I broke my boy. I broke my boy. That's when the tears came to my eye. I broke my boy. I broke my boy. And I was losing. Even saying it now is making me feel it again. He took the cash, hesitated, but even hesitating just a few seconds, that was enough for those two scumbags. And I got him to take the loot, and 2 days later they killed him. He was the strongest person I ever knew, and he never would have done anything. As Joe said, I was the only one that could have get him to debase himself. And what did he do it? He did it for nothing. I made him a lesser man like me, and those bastards killed him anyway.
Yep, talk about karma. I not only broke my son, made him debase himself, but they killed him, and I'm still alive, and I have to live with that. I lost my son after I made him do this awful stuff. He lost his life after I made him do this awful stuff to even save his life. Like, he doesn't even have a chance in life to redeem himself from the awful thing that he did by taking the money.
But by being honest, here, I think he's opened himself up to at least have some semblance of family here, because she didn't seem at all upset by all of this. This seemed to give her some solace as she walks over to him.
Knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe, and she embraces him, and she says, "Hoffman and Finsky, if they killed Maddie, who killed them?" As she,
it's not who killed them. It's if you can live, you know what happened.
Right, but she embraces him when she says that, and yeah, like Joe said, he goes, "You know what happened."
You know who I am. You know exactly who I am.
What a stupid.
Yeah, and can you live with it? That's the only thing you need to wonder.
It reminded me again to bring up other shows. The show right behind me, Deep Space Nine, an episode called Pale Moonlight, In the Pale Moonlight, where I'm not gonna. At the end of the episode, one of the characters is all about committed a big crime or something happened, and he has to learn. At the end, goes to the camera, "Can I live with this? I'm gonna have to live with this. You're gonna live with this." And right in that moment, you know she can live with that, and she's going to live with that.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Thank Mike for doing it. It's gonna bring them closer, and that is why Mike has a relationship with his granddaughter up until the present. Awesome fucking episode. Awesome history of Mike to learn why he's close to this part of his family. And I know we're gonna get more of this as the investigation continues, but for their relationship and his family interaction, amazing what they did tonight with Mike. I know so much more about him.
Yeah. Do you think it's Matt's fault, like Ren?
I think it's Mike's fault for ever letting him join that particular police precinct. He should have known his son enough to tell him, dude, join the army or go to somewhere else, go to a small town or something.
Don't be a cop here.
Don't be a cop in Philadelphia. So Mike's got to take some responsibility, but ultimately, I don't know. You got to was Matt naive? Did Mike let him? I think it's Mike for not letting him know what he was getting into, to not break that pedestal sooner. Unfortunately, for him, and that leave things on a sad note. But next week,
some things you just can't teach your son.
Yeah, some lessons they need to learn themselves, and ultimately they get the worst possible scenario. You hope that they get punched in the face or something, but
yeah, no, it is his fault.
You think it's Matt's fault?
I think it's his fault, and I'll tell you why I think it's his fault. I think it's his fault because he needs to be decisive. He can't be flip-flopping and all, do I take the money? Do I not take the money? Do I take the money? This is something he should have already been through in his own fucking head as to whether or not he was ever going to take money or not take money or be the dirty cop or not be the dirty cop. I'm sure you have that.
Well, he had, and that was his struggle.
Right, so then he shouldn't have even had to call his dad and make any decision and let his dad talk him out of it. He should have just went straight to IA.
He thought his dad would have his back.
Doesn't matter. He still should have gone straight to IA.
Very good, but that's what I like about this show because, again, similar to not the same thing, but similar in Game of Thrones, there's a lot of gray areas, and we don't deal with anyone that's a good or a bad person in this world. We don't deal with a decision at the end of this episode with a bow tie on it. We're in some situation where we have 4 people that are all looking at this in similar but different ways that we're all talking about this right now, and I'm sure everyone else that's watching this episode.
So do you take the money, Phil?
Do I take the money the money that's offered from her?
No, from the dirty cop money.
Oh, do I take the dirty cop money? I'm not a cop. But do I take dirty cop money? That's a different. No, I don't take the dirty cop money. Or I don't say I take the dirty cop money on a podcast. That's for damn sure.
I mean, the dirty cop money is the same as taking the money from the woman in the woods there that Saul had to do, isn't it? Isn't that the same thing?
It is
That's
the same
dirty
thing.
money too. That's stolen money.
But I like to think that there's gray area and there's not just good and bad. That there's gray.
And when that wife kills that husband, is it any different at that point? Because that's where it's headed.
No. If she ends up killing, it's no different. I'll agree with you there. Renwood says Maddie was too good to be in this kind of work. I agree.
Yeah, that might be the truth of it all, right there.
That might be the truth. That he should have been a security guard at Disney World or something.
Right.
That would have been a better job.
Like, if you have incorruptible morals, maybe you shouldn't be a cop. Is that what you're saying? Like, we shouldn't have good cops.
Or in this world. In this world,
there are no good cops.
In the Breaking Bad world, there isn't.
Yeah, right. That's the one I'm talking about.
Hank hasn't been invented yet, so he's out there somewhere. So next week, we see Saul's face. We see that there's still going to be some more Mike stuff. We see that Chuck is back, and we see that the $1 Million Idiots are back. So all this next week and more. But we got a quick announcements. On Wednesday evening, Joe and I will be getting together to do the the Game of Thrones recap and continuing our journey with Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. And then Friday we'll hope, or Saturday we'll be doing Vikings. We'll figure out which day works better for that, or Thursday night after, depending on a couple of factors. But this weekend on Sunday for The Walking Dead, I will be on vacation, so I will be doing it from location at a ski lodge in New Hampshire. So we'll be doing it live from a different place, and so it'll be a little different than our normal
Another multi-state broadcast.
Exactly. And there's a water park there because I don't skate. That's what I'm doing.
Woo!
Woohoo!
Broadcast live from the water slide, Phil.
Yep, from the top of the water slide. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this week's Better Call Saul podcast. We'd love to hear what you thought of this episode and what you're hoping to see by the end of this season. What do you think the climax moment of the Better Call Saul season will be? So please jump in the chat section or the comment section and tell us what you thought over the week.
I don't know if I want to think about Saul climaxing.
Hey, some people might like that. You know, some people might like the Odenkirk.
Yeah.
He does look like a young, what was he say, young Warren Beatty or
a young Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, just like Matlock. You know, that's a pretty man, pretty man, guys. So if you have made it this far and you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And we do lots of recaps right now. We're doing Vikings, Game of Thrones, which is coming back very, very soon, Joe. And a lot of fun stuff for Game of Thrones has come out. A lot of previews and information, episode titles. It's getting real. It's getting really real. And also, because we're never going to have a break in the world, the Walking Dead companion series was announced is going to be starting in the summertime. So in between, so after Game of Thrones is over, we get 6 episodes of the companion series of The Walking Dead to do recaps as well. And Gotham is coming back, and we're going to do recaps of the last few episodes of Gotham when that comes back right at the time that Better Call Saul ends. So it's never stopping. So please subscribe for all this kind of goofiness.
Nice. Woohoo!
Talk to you guys soon. Love you all.
Peace.
Later.